21, verse 2. Chapter 21 of Exodus, verse 2. It says, Ki sikneh eved ivri, when you acquire a Hebrew slave, Sheishanim yavod, 6 years he shall work, Mubash v'is, yitzeo chavshichinam. In the 7th year, he will go free. 6 years he shall work, and in the 7th year he will go free. Rashi says, what does that mean? Ki sikneh eved ivri. There are 2 types of slaves in the Torah. There's what's called an Eved Ivri, a Hebrew slave, and an Eved Kanani, a Canaanite slave. And they have very, very different laws. These 2 types of slaves are not the same at all. Eved Ivri, which is a slave who's Jewish, and a person who needed to raise money, and he sells himself into slavery. A Canaanite slave is a person who does not start out Jewish, and he was captured as a slave, which was common in the ancient world. So, you had a question, Aviva?
No.
So now the Gemara asks the question, Ki sikneh eved ivri. What does this mean? Says the Rashi, is this a eved shehu ivri? Is this a servant who is a Hebrew? Or maybe it's a servant of a Hebrew? Meaning, what is it? Is it a Jewish slave, or is it a slave of a Jew? Meaning to say, is it an Eved Kanani shelakachtom Yisrael, or a Canaanite slave bought from a Jew? So it says, Sheishanim yavod. So it says, Mani Mekayim is Nachaltamasam. When it says you shall bequeath them, maybe that only applies to somebody who's bought from a non-Jew, but somebody bought from a Jew should go out after 6 years. I might have thought that what we're talking about here is a Canaanite slave bought from a Jew. Maybe he goes free after 6 years. So says the verse, Ki mechercha achicha ha'ivri, ho avriya v'avatcha sheishanim. When your brother, the Hebrew man or the Hebrew woman, will be sold to you, he shall serve for 6 years. This only applies to your brother. So this is talking about a Hebrew slave, somebody who is a slave who was born Jewish, and he goes free after 6 years, whereas the Canaanite slaves do not go free after 6 years. They never go free. How does a Canaanite slave go free? How does a Canaanite slave go free? Anybody remember? The Canaanite slave goes free, b'shein v'ayin. That if you knock out his tooth or his eye or 22 other parts of the body, then the Canaanite slave goes free. But he does not go free after 6 years. He does not go free in the Jubilee year. He only goes free b'shem v'ayin. You want to say something, Rabbi Yosef?
Just to ask if the hitnachaltem leolam is a commandment or it's a suggestion, meaning when Rabbi Gamliel released Tavi, like we talked about yesterday, was he transgressing like a Torah mitzvah or just?
Well, it's you're right. So generally speaking, it's considered to be a prohibition that you were not allowed to free a Canaanite slave, and that's why the Gemara asks, well, how did he free him? Not Rabbi Gamliel. It was not Rabbi Gamliel who freed Tavi, his servant. It was a different story. You can look it up in the Gemara. I don't believe it was Rabbi Gamliel. The Gemara talks about a case where a slave was freed. There's actually a few cases in the Gemara, but
For a minion.
For a minion, but that was not Rabbi Gamliel, I don't believe.
Okay. But
so it might have been Rabbi
a minion
is
not a positive commandment. So.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not a positive commandment. But yet he was allowed to be free because it was a great. The Gemara asked that question. Elon, you got the pizza, my friend?
I deferred to Kobe.
Okay, you sure he's getting it?
Yeah, I totally got it.
And you gave him the number?
No.
You gave him the number to pick up the pizza?
Yeah.
And you told him to get the plates and the receipts?
Yeah, it's my car.
But
Rob, I'm wondering, could we have the pizza now before?
No, we got to save for afterwards so that we could celebrate together. And because people are coming to celebrate, we're going to have a l'chaim. What? That's why I said, yeah, this is a huge victory. This is a huge day of celebration. We don't want to start the party early. We're just so excited about this victory. Baruch Hashem. Did you come down to the court? Who came down to the court? You were there? You, Akiva, and was Kobe there?
Yeah, so maybe it's Moshe.
It was just unbelievable. It was an unbelievable support that you came down. I remember it, and a lot of people came on the Zoom. But they had, the other side had hundreds of people down there, and they were trying, and it was intimidating, and I was being heckled. We were being heckled, and we were being embarrassed. But in the end, we just have to be incredibly grateful to Hashem. And also, obviously, our lawyers were amazing. Baruch Hashem. What?
Victor was down at the court one day.
Yeah, Victor was there one day also. Yeah, I'll put it in the warmer, Kobe. Thanks. In the warmer. You see, it's on. And please get Elon's plates from his car. And save me the receipt. Okay. So now it says in the next verse, Kisikneh, when you acquire Miyad Beitin, when you acquire from the hand of the court, Shemachru b'gnei vaso, they sold him for his theft. As it states, so why is this Hebrew slave sold? Because he had no money and he stole something and he can't pay it back. If he has no money to pay it back, he's sold. Or maybe it's somebody who sold himself because he was poor. Maybe it's somebody who sold himself because he was poor. But if he sold himself in the court, then he wouldn't go free at the end of 6 years. So therefore, the verse says, right? So Mani Mekayim Kisikneh Benim Karba Bezdin. Meaning to say it applies even somebody who's sold by the court. So after 6 years, he goes free. So the maximum amount of time that you could be sold for is 6 years. After 6 years, your debt goes free. Your debt goes free. Okay. So now it states in the verse, in Begapo Yavo, Begapo Yetze, if he came in by himself, he goes out by himself. But Gapo means like a single guy, unmarried. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so hey Kobe, how you doing? Thank you for picking up the pizza. Did you come down to the courtroom, Kobe? Were you there?
I did. I was there with Kiva.
Yeah. And Elon and Moshe?
We were there. I don't think Moshe was there.
Moshe, was it amazing? Is it amazing that we have this victory now?
It was so amazing. And you know what, Rabbi? They were all laughing on me. They're laughing no more. They were laughing and now they're laughing.
They're laughing at me. They were making fun of me. They were embarrassing me. They were heckling us. And we were sitting there just being patient. And Baruch Hashem, in the end, we're so grateful. So, yeah, it's just amazing. I think that this is going to be a national story. People around the country are going to notice this. So, okay. So he says, we're in chapter 21, verse 3. In Begapo Yavo, Begapo Yetze, if he comes in as a single person, he'll leave as a single person. In Baal Shahu, if he was married, then his wife will go out with him. What does this mean if he comes in as a single person? Rashi says if he was not married when he became a slave. The word Begapo means his coattail. Shaloba el kamoshahu. He came as an individual, in his clothing, in the tail of his garment. If he came in as an individual, say, meaning to say that if the servant was not married at the outset, his master may not assign him a Canaanite slave woman to father slaves. If he was married, he can get a shifcha, so he can make slaves for the Canaanite. But if he wasn't married, you can't give him a Canaanite woman to make slaves with. Follow that? The slave was I guess the master wants to have Canaanite children from this Hebrew slave, so he could give him a Canaanite slave woman to be, to get pregnant from him. But that's only if he was unmarried. But if he was married, if he was not married, you can't do that. In Baal Shahu, if he is married to a Yisraelis, then she goes out with him. So the question is, she wasn't a slave. What do you mean she goes out? So the verse is telling us, if you're going to buy a Hebrew slave, then you're obligated to support his wife and children. If you're going to buy a Hebrew slave, then you're obligated to support his wife and children. So you follow what we're talking about here, Elon? Yeah, so basically if there's a person who sold himself as a slave because he stole something, then nobody would want to buy that person because to buy him as a Hebrew slave, because you're going to have to pay for his children's education. You're going to have to pay for his children's day school. You're going to have to pay for his wife's food and clothing, which he's responsible to do. Why would anybody want to buy that? You're buying a Hebrew slave and you have all these dependents upon you that you have to support.
Rehab.
Hmm?
It's rehab. It doesn't include a Jewish day school. I mean, it's nice that you're adding that, but
no, it does. The Talmud says you have to pay for his children's education.
But there was no education. The boys went to a public cheder, and the girls stayed at home. So
No, I mean, there was an obligation to educate the child on certain things. So maybe it was free, but we know that they paid. Hillel tried to go into the base medrash, he had to pay for it.
right, and then Shua ben Gamla corrected that with the children.
So we don't know at what point this was. And the Gemara says that he has to pay for the education. So presumably he was paying for something. Depends on which community. Not everybody has universal, and not in every situation could he count on that. Yes, Elon.
Well, I don't mention how much interest costs, like, for her law.
The price would be different. The price would be different depending upon where you are. But the Gemara talks about how if there's that you're not allowed to give him a job that you wouldn't want to do, that if you have one pillow, he gets the pillow, he has to eat what you eat. So he's not really like a slave. He's more like a worker who you have a 6-year contract with, maximum. And you have a lot of responsibilities. That's why the Gemara says, Hakona Eved, Kona Rabo. The Gemara says if you acquire a slave, you've really acquired a master. Because you have all these responsibilities. That's why it's the same thing. Like if you hire an employee to work for you, what a burden you are placing upon yourself. You're responsible for that person. It's the same thing.
Do you have to pay for your service?
What?
Like if your slave got sick, do you have to?
If you're you have to slay. You would have to support him. You have to give him. You have to support him. He's your dependent. I mean, I don't know that there was what there was in terms of medical expenses, but he was your dependent. If he needed to eat chicken soup in order to get better, you'd have to buy him chicken soup. Or pizza. Let's say the master gives him a wife, and the wife gives birth to children, sons or daughters. The woman and her children should be for her master, and he should go out by himself. Okay, so basically what we're talking about here is, let's say the master says to his Jewish slave, okay, you have a nice Jewish wife, but I want to give you an additional woman to be to get pregnant from you, and we'll call her your wife. Then the master keeps the children, and the and the slave goes out by himself without her. Rashi says, from here we see that the master has the permission to give this Hebrew slave a shifcha kananis, the Canaanite slave woman from whom to father slaves. So Rashi asks, well, how do you know it's a Jewish a non-Jewish woman? Maybe it's a Jewish woman. Says the verse, there's a woman and her children belong to the master. That obviously is a Canaanite, because if she would be Jewish, then she would go free. The Hebrew maidservant is a separate law. It's called the Alma Evriyah. She goes free either after 6 years or when she shows signs of adolescence, whichever comes first. So therefore, it's obviously referring to a Canaanite slave woman. Now, let's say he says, when his time is up, when his 6 years are up, let's say he says, let's say he says, listen, I love my master, my wife, my children. I don't want to go free. He loves the Canaanite woman. He doesn't want to go free. Why should he want to go free? Now he's going to go free. He's saying he had a beautiful relationship with this Canaanite woman for 6 years. And now they're telling him, go back to Bnei Brak or Lakewood and leave her here with your master. Leave her in whatever town she is. He's done. So he says, I don't want to do that. I want to stay as a slave. So what happens? Then the master takes him to the court. Here Elohim means the court. They take him to the door, the doorpost. And the master sticks his, pierces his ear, and he is a slave forever. He's not going to be a slave forever. He's only a slave for a few years. Yes, Elon.
So, like doing your salary thing, is it a punishment or is it like market?
So we'll see what Rashi says. So you bring him to the court. He has to consult with the sellers who sold the servant to him. He has to consult with them. He goes to the door or the doorpost. I might think that the doorpost is valid place to which to do the ear, says the verse in the door. The door and not the doorpost. What does that mean? Why does it say the doorpost? Gemara says, the Rashi says the door is compared to the doorpost. Just like the doorpost is standing up, so the door must be standing up. The door must be on its hinges, basically. And he shall bore through his ear. Which ear is the right ear? Maybe the left ear, Rashi says. The verse says, ear, ozen, to teach us that he shall bore through his ear. And it says by mitzvah on the right ear. So it means the right. And this is now Elon's question. Why is the ear being bored through? Why are you piercing the ear? Why is the ear different from all the other organs of the body? Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai the following. Well, Mr. Dobson. Now, Mr. Dobson, we're going to have pizza and cake after the prayers. After the prayers, we're going to have the pizza and the cake. Aviva and Mordechai sponsored the cake. We're so happy, and they picked it up. And we're going to have pizza, and then we're going to celebrate this incredible victory from Hashem. Incredible victory. Incredible. So, why the ear? Do you know why the ear is different, Elon? So it says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, this ear that heard at Mount Sinai, you shall not steal, and he went and stole, you have to bore it. You put it through. You know what, Elon? Text Moshe Snyder. He's calling me. Tell him the good news. Tell him the good news. He's calling me now, but I can't pick up for him. No, you can do it from right here. You don't have to go out. No, don't call him. Text him. Okay. Okay, fine. And if he sells himself, why does he have to bore the ear? Because we say this ear that heard at Mount Sinai, that the Jewish people shall be slaves unto me. And what did he do? He went and acquired a different master for himself. Let this ear be bored. He went. How you doing? Baruch Hashem, Reb Baruch. Amazing, amazing. Mazel Tov. No Tachanun today. We're going to say like a verse from the Hallel without any bracha, but this is just an incredible victory. Incredible victory. Yeah, incredible victory today.
Okay.
So we're saying, why do you pierce the ear? This is a fundamental idea. This is such a powerful idea. Rashi said, the ear that heard at Mount Sinai, the Jewish people shall be slaves to me. And this guy went and he acquired a master for himself. Let his ear be pierced. So Elon, it's a punishment. Why are we piercing his ear? It's a punishment. What's the punishment? You're not supposed to be a slave to somebody else. You know what we call that when somebody says, I want to be a slave to somebody else? Well, that's another way of saying it. I was going to say it similarly. I was going to say you're a sellout. You're selling yourself short. Don't say I want to be a slave. You want to be, the Torah says we're supposed to be free. A slave, there's something very attractive to some people about being a slave. This guy's got everything. He doesn't have to worry. What has he got? All his expenses paid for. He's got the master taking care of him. He has his own Hebrew wife. He's got a Canaanite wife. He doesn't have to pay for anything. The master gives him food. He has food every day, but he's not free. It's no good. It's no good. We're supposed to be a slave to God, not to anybody else. This guy is sold out. And for this reason, we pierce his ear as a punishment. And yeah, that's what Rashi says. That's what Rashi says. Let's see. It's just a powerful idea to me that a Jew is not supposed to want to settle. The Jew doesn't settle for anything less than what he's striving for. Let's see here if it says it right here. We always have to push ourselves.
Are you allowed to let him loose later?
What? What'd you say?
It says Valadolo Olam, right? Can you let him loose later?
No, so it doesn't mean forever, Rashi says. It means just up until the Jubilee year. That's what it says in Olam, right? Not until the Jubilee year.
What if before?
No, that's why his ear is pierced.
What if the Balabite offers him again?
Oh, what if he wants to go free? Well then, yeah, he's not required to keep him there, but he doesn't automatically go free. So it says here, how are you doing, Jonathan? Do you know Dida Netzach? You know the song Dida Netzach? You know what the story with that is? I'll tell you the story that the Dida Netzach, this is when the Hey Teves, this is the day that the Lubavitcher Rebbe was involved in a big lawsuit because the sixth Rebbe had two daughters. One of them married. One was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the other one married the oldest daughter, and Gerari. And his son felt that he was entitled to the library of Chabad. So he was taking the books out of the library because he felt his father should have been the seventh Rebbe. So he was taking the books out of the library, and the Rebbe brought him to court, and they sued him in state. I think it was state court. What?
Oh my.
No. This is a big. I'm not sure if it was state court or federal court, but they sued him, and then hello Benedict, and Nat Lewin was the attorney for Chabad, and the judge and it was just a terrible story. Like they deposed the Rebbe's wife was deposed on the stand. No, she was not. She had to testify. And the judge in the end ruled that it was not, that the library was not the personal library of the Rebbe, in which case Gerari would have been entitled to it, but it was the collective library of the Chabad community, and therefore the Rebbe was entitled to it. It stayed in 770, and the books were had to be returned. So when they gave that ruling, they came back, they were so overwhelmed and they declared that they had a huge victory and they called it Didon Net, and they wrote a song right there on the spot and they called it Didon Netzach, which means we are victorious, we are victorious. And I felt that, hello, Benjamin, I felt we are victorious today. The judge gave us a ruling that he said every single penny that we asked for, which was high, we asked for high dollars. $180,000 in legal fees we asked for because we had to work. You know how many days I had to spend, and I was humiliated, embarrassed, and threatened and heckled. Kobe and Elon saw that, and my lawyers told me, "Be patient, we'll have our time." And Hugh drove me down and to the court. I spent a whole days there on Erev Shabbos, and in the end, the judge said that we were 100% right. They were 100% wrong. They have to pay our legal fees, and we're going to, God willing, collect every single cent, because this is a message. This is a message to everybody in the entire country where they're targeting the Jewish community and trying to intimidate us through different methods. They showed up with the police at my house to give me this anti-stalking order. And we are going to collect every single cent. Every cent we're going to collect from them.
Did the judge just issue the ruling from his office, or did you have to go down to?
He emailed it to us. I mean, I don't know how we got it. We got it. Okay, let us have a mincha at this time.
Start Benin and all the rest.